Coming up on this week's show, the Atari Jaguar gets a new lease of life.
A huge dance music star hooks up with Atari.
And rejuvenate your Amiga's Workbench.
And the Retro Hour podcast is brought to you every Friday with our friends, our sponsor at Bitmap Books. Now, of course, today, lots of Amiga chat on the podcast. Have you seen one of their best books, Commodore Amiga, a visual compendium? Now, this is a real love letter to Amiga gaming, covering some of the early titles as well that we'll remember, stuff like Defender of the Crown, Barbarian, through all the huge games that really define that system. Populous, Cannon Fodder, Speedball, Worms, weighing in at more than 420 pages. If you love Amiga gaming, check it out and the rest of their retro gaming collection at bitmapbooks.com. Hello and welcome to the Retro Hour podcast, episode number 502, your weekly dose of retro gaming and technology news with me, Dan Wood.
Me, Ravi Abbott.
And me, Joe Fox.
And a very warm welcome to this week's show. The podcast that every single Friday celebrates all the goodness about the amazing world of retro gaming and technology, brings you up to speed with all the big stories that have been making the headlines from over the last 7 days, and welcomes on veterans of the industry for a chat on the second half of the show. And by the time this episode lands, you and I, Ravi, will be in sunny Germany, ready for the big Amiga 40 celebrations.
I'm not sure where you got sunny from. It might be
sunny but cold, I think. I looked at the weather forecast.
It's getting a bit cold. But yeah, we're going to Amiga Germany, and this is the 40th celebration, and it's a mad event. Like, if you've not been to Amiga Germany before, it's absolutely insane. I do a show, I've previously done one called Kickstart, and kind of based it on this, because when I went over, I was like, my God, the revival of Amiga is real. Like, especially in that region, you know, a lot of people loved it. Having a lot of hardware there that you see is very different from the UK shows, where, you know, a lot of people are focused on games and stuff. There's that there, but the Germans really love to bring their systems and kind of show them off. There's some beautiful machines. And it's actually an awesome party as well when we've previously gone out. So I'm sure we'll be out on the town tonight if we're there.
Yeah, well, I remember last time Dave Haney was one of the engineers from Commodore. He worked on the Amiga 4000 and 3000. I think I left him in a bar at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and the party was still going strong.
Like, oh, on Friday, you know, I'm going to be responsible. He never is. He's never responsible. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm doing the talk on Saturday, and that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, we're going to bring that in the podcast next week. We're recording it, aren't we? Who have you got on the panel?
Yes, so I've got Eric Simon, so this is going to be really cool. We're talking all about Falion, Lionheart as well, one of my favourite games. We know Amigos podcast loves that as well. Really beautiful parallax scrolling and graphics as well. And then we're going to be talking about Blue Byte as well later on, that did some of the later Settlers games as well. So it should be a live talk from Germany. But this week, we've got some more Amiga content, haven't we?
Yeah, it's kind of Amiga month on the podcast, being that we are out there celebrating. I can see the look of joy on Joe's face. But this week, I mean, I'm excited to talk to our guest this week, because this is someone who, if you are into the world of retro tech podcasts, you'll be very familiar with our guest this week, because he's on the awesome This Week in Retro podcast alongside the wonderful Chris and Dave, who've, of course, done that show for many years now. Jason joined the show, I think it was earlier this year. Yeah. Didn't he? Jason Compton. But I knew Jason from way back in the day, from a magazine that I first started reading. This is probably the first digital mag that I ever read, called Amiga Report. Were you an Amiga Report reader back then?
I wasn't actually an Amiga Report reader, but I was a CU Amiga reader. So like a lot of people, you'll see Jason on This Week is in Retro, and you won't know his Amiga background. It's quite huge, actually. You know, he was the kind of stateside reporter journalist for CU Amiga. So, you know, finding out about that American scene's really interesting, because it was very European based. But then,
and the world felt a lot bigger then, didn't it, before we're all online? So reading reports from what was happening stateside just felt like really exciting, didn't it?
100%, yeah. And also, like, you know, having that kind of perspective from America was really interesting, because of all the collapses and the buyouts and stuff that went on with the Amiga, American companies getting involved. You know, it kind of changed over time. So we're going to talk about Amiga Report as well, which was what he was covering, all of these ups and downs with, but also VizCorp as well, which was a company that he was actually press officer for at the time. And I remember Amiga Format had on the front of it, VizCorp buys the Amiga. And I was like, oh my God, they've bought it. But turned out that didn't happen. So it's going to be a really interesting interview this week.
So I first started reading Amiga Report. I think CU Amiga magazine actually put a few issues on their cover CD in around 1995. Yes. And I remember looking back, so there were like, there was a format on the Amiga called Amiga Guide, which I think actually predated HTML. It was like a hypertext format. And he released the magazines in that format. He didn't actually start the magazine, but he took it over. Then I think it came out like, he mentions it in the interview, I've got a feeling it was like every 2 weeks. Amiga Report came out. But it was really interesting because he was even covering that kind of, because Commodore went bankrupt in April of 1994. And then the buyout, it was a massive 12-month long process before ESCOM, who were a German PC manufacturer, bought the Amiga. And he was covering all that in real time. Yeah, so it was really, I mean, you think of print magazines, they were 2 months behind by the time they'd written the articles, had gone to press. So really it was, cutting edge journalism back then.
Yeah. And, if you were in Australia or something, getting a magazine would be massively delayed, as with getting any film releases or anything.
And expensive.
And expensive, getting it from overseas. But it was really interesting interview. We also talk about This Week in Retro as well, which is an awesome podcast. Thank you for the shout out last week as well, guys.
Yeah, it was a nice little surprise when I was there walking around Morrison's, the supermarket on Saturday morning. Give me a nice little surprise when I was putting a watermelon in the trolley. I'll always remember that exact moment. So, thanks for the shout out, guys. And Jason Compton, our special guest on the show in around half an hour from now. But of course, before that, we bring you up to speed on what's been happening in retro, all the big stories that have been landing on our timelines from over the last 7 days. And I was quite pleased to see us leading with an Atari Jaguar story this week. As you guys know, I'm our resident Atari Jaguar fan. I always have a bit of an affection for the systems that didn't do so well back in the day. And I'm also kind of working my way towards a full Atari Jaguar collection. I'd say I'm probably about 90% of the way there. But it looks like there might be a couple of new games that I'll need to add in there if I want a complete set. There's 2 games that are coming out in the next few months for the Jag.
Yeah, so these are 2 games coming from a homebrew publisher called Songbird Productions. And it was recently the Game Jam.
Jag Jam.
The Jag Jam. It was Jag Jam 2024. It wasn't recent. I don't know why I'm saying recent. It was Jag Jam 2024. And basically, these 2 games both come from Songbird Productions, and they basically mocked up the Audio Awards. And the first game is a game called Shape Shooter 2000, which is going to be, it's described as a 3D multi-directional shoot 'em up. And I was like, what does that mean? But it's like the kind of like top-down or isometric view of a game where you use the D-pad and it will shoot in that direction. Like you move with the D-pad and then press the buttons to shoot in the 4 directions. The only game I can think of off the top of my head is like Smash TV.
It reminds me, looking at it graphically, even like the spaceship and the trees, it reminds me of Zarch or Lander, as it was on the Acorn Archimedes, rather, from David Braben. I think the graphics look like they're maybe even ripped from that.
It reminds me of like Asteroids kind of, Awesome was one where you were going back and forth and you were kind of trying to defeat them from within the middle. To be honest, I used to get motion sickness from those kind of titles, but I get motion sickness from anything. It does look good though. A nice use of the 3D on the Jag.
Yeah. I've got a feeling it's going to be a lot harder than it looks as well from watching the video.
It does look tough. It looks quite slippery, I must say. But there's a lot going on the screen, etc. And then the second game is called Operation Follow Through.
Slightly unfortunate name there, right?
Yeah, that to me means something else.
Each to your own. This is going to be a on-rail shooter in the vein of like virtual. I was going to say virtual fighter, in the vein of Virtual Cop or Time Crisis. And in the brief clip I've seen, shooting the screen kind of game. You're going down a motorway, firing at cars and stuff. So it looks pretty cool. Ravi actually sent me this about a week ago, and he was like, "Oh, it's like Virtual Cop." And in my head, the ongoing thing that I really want to get a Jag, and I want to start playing more Jaguar. I played like one when I was a kid, my cousin's one, and in my head, I'd like convinced myself that the graphics on the Jaguar were as good as like Sega Saturn. When I was thinking, Virtual Cop, yeah, man, like, and then I watched this and I was like, oh yeah, no, it's not.
Well, I mean, it's got some of the elements of Virtual Cop in there. It's got like the little circle kind of target. That's ripped straight out of Virtual Cop, isn't it, by the looks of it? And in terms of 3D games, I mean, there were some dreadful ones that came out on the Jaguar. I think it was Checkered Flag is one that you might have seen. Kind of it's meant to be a kind of virtual racing kind of clone, but it's like dreadful. So I think in terms of these kind of 3D games on the Jag, this looks pretty impressive. It's definitely up there in the most visually impressive ones I've seen.
Yeah, I had to just kind of like remind myself of what the Jag did actually look like, and I was like, oh yeah, these look pretty damn good.
Yeah, and it's smart from what they're doing as well, because they're kind of, we've seen a like tiny little clip of a couple of seconds, but I remember seeing a lot of Polish titles on the Amiga that did this later on, which was like pre-rendered graphics and moving through and stuff like this. This looks like you kind of got a lower down perspective on a road, so actually visually you're not processing that much, and maybe there'll be tunnel sections and stuff like that. I'd like to see it moving around in a 3D environment, virtual cop style. But this looks cool. Cool to see like an on-rail shooter coming for the Jag as well. And also remember, Jaguar Doom was pretty good as well.
Yeah, very good. Well, John Carmack wrote it, didn't he?
Yeah, somebody with a bit more coding proficiency and really like pushing it with the modern tricks and stuff. I can imagine this would be pretty cool.
That was one of the biggest problems of the Jaguar, because it had famously had the Motorola 68K processor on there. It's the same CPU that was in the Mega Drive and the Amiga, and it was really meant to be just for I/O, and I think to do the controllers. Yeah, but then lazy developers realized actually we can just use it as a main CPU.
And
so it's on the same
they
data
can
bus.
Port over a lot of stuff doing it that way as well. Yeah,
which made sense because nobody bought it, so why invest a fortune developing games for it? Understandable. And also the architecture was quite complex to program for its time. So it is nice to see all these years later games that look like they're actually utilizing the Tom and Jerry chips, as they were called in the Atari Jaguar. And it does mention at the bottom of this time extension article, it could be an excuse to dust off your Jaguar. My Jaguar's got no dust on it. I still play it every week. So set it permanently. So, looking forward to these. They should be landing early 2026. I'll put the trailers for those in this week's show notes. Another game that's very cool from back in the day, if we're talking about racing games, is Street Racer. Now, I remember we did an episode, didn't we, with Mev Dink and Rafael Secco on the podcast in the early days of this show. Actually hung out with Mev Dink at an event in Italy a couple of summers ago. Went for dinner with him, a couple of drinks. Lovely guy. And he told us some of the stories about Street Racer, insofar as when they demoed this at a trade show, Nintendo's jaw dropped and they got very worried because they were about to release Mario Kart. So this is Street Racer, which was a really cool kind of, they call it a Mario Kart clone. I've got a feeling it either came out just before or very close, didn't it? It's very
I think the difference was it had 4-player mode at the same time.
Right.
When it was just split screen on a Mario Kart, and that was the kind of like defining factor of it. And also, it's a bit more violent, wasn't it? There was a lot more punching.
Bit road rash kind of style in some ways.
Well, it was meant to be kart racing meets Street Fighter. And as Ravi just said there, something I always forget about the original Mario Kart is even when you played single player, it still split the screen, and there was a map at the bottom of the screen, and you still only got half the screen. Whereas a Street Racer, you got the whole screen, even on single player.
And I felt there wasn't a noticeable speed slowdown as well. I felt it ran quite well in 4-player, where other games could lag a bit, when you're doing split screen.
Yeah, we took advantage of the mode 7 of the Super Nintendo.
So, according to this article, Street Racer actually came out 2 years after Mario Kart.
Right, okay.
So it came out in 94, originally on the Super Nintendo, and then it got ported to like every system under the sun at the time.
I remember it on the Amiga, but it was very different. It was more like just like a Lotus Turbo Challenge style game, bit Outrun.
The perspective was a lot lower. I felt like lower down at the camera, so you could see less.
Yeah, I remember mostly playing it at a friend's house on Super Nintendo, and then me and my brother I think we've rented it a few times on PS1, which was like a really, really good version of the game. But the reason we're talking about it is there is a compilation, re-release, HD remaster of the game coming out on modern systems. So it's going to be on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, etc., which is going to be coming out, I believe, later this year.
Yeah, they've not got a release date as yet, but yeah,
not got a release date as yet. But what gets me about it, so like I say, it came out on loads of different systems. Basically, this compilation is going to be every version of the game, bar the PS1 and Sega Saturn version. So you're going to get a Super Nintendo version, the Mega Drive version, the Game Boy version, and then I believe you're going to get the Amiga and the MS-DOS version, but you don't get the PS1 and Sega Saturn version. Now, I remember it being a popular game. I remember seeing it a lot back in the day. I remember seeing it in demo discs on PlayStation and in magazines and stuff. But it also feels, it's cool to see, don't get me wrong, and I do want to buy it and play it on like Xbox or PlayStation. But it was only one game that just got ported loads. And it's like, oh, it's the compilation. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure there wasn't a Street Racer 2 or anything. I just feel like it just came out on lots of consoles and systems.
It had loads of mini games that were fun. I remember the soccer one on there.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was good. I guess it was just an alternative. Like, later on you had like, well, it was N64, Diddy Kong Racing and stuff. And it was like challenges to the kind of crown. But also I think it came from like a Euro perspective. It's a French developer. Where that was something very different to like Nintendo, and a lot of people look down on Euro gaming, and I kind of love it. I love its aesthetic and its vibe. Yeah,
particularly the console crowd of that time. There's always but even if you go now on like a lot of retro gaming forums, you're right, Ravi. They kind of look down the nose a bit at kind of 80s and 90s European games, particularly platformers. So I think
I was like, Euro games, yes.
Yeah.
All the crap titles, bring them in. Yeah. No,
bring back Hugo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, I think Street Racer definitely, a remaster would be good because some of the controls were quite hard. It was quite tough to play. And some like, making it easier to use, quality of life kind of updates would be good. Making it a bit more playable.
Yeah, so there's 27 unique tracks in the game, all the shortcuts, traps and challenges, 8 characters to pick from as well, varied racing options, quick lap to 80-lap marathons as well, local multiplayer as well for up to 4 players, which is pretty cool to see. So, even though it was never as popular as Mario Kart, it was definitely a bit of a cult classic.
Yeah, I felt it had a steep learning curve. That was a thing. But once you got into it, it was good. But it wasn't as pick up and play.
And there are some screenshots at the moment. You can wishlist it on Steam. Doesn't look like it's a full kind of, like a remake. It is just nicely scaled up, but it does look nice. I think they've done a good job with it. Getting it up to 1080p, and I'm sure it'll run butterly smooth on modern systems. So, as we mentioned, release date for that to be announced, but you can wishlist that right now. I'll put that in this week's show notes. Something else to look out for as well, maybe if you've got one of the Atari 2600 or 7800 plus systems, or maybe one of the originals, is another game from the Atari stable landing for that system soon. This one, though, a little bit different to what we usually see. It's fronted by someone, I think, who most people would say is pretty cool. Yeah?
Are we on about this, what's he called? Dead Man 5? Dead Mouse 5?
Dead Mouse. Yeah.
Dead Mouse. Dead Mouse, is it?
I know it's a bit of a meme that people call him Dead Mouse 5, because I think Kanye West called him that once. So he does refer to himself like that sometimes, just to kind of take the mic. But yeah, of course,
Dead Mouse. Called Dead Mouse.
Dead Mouse, right, yes, okay. With a 5 as an S, because he's cool. Like I said, he's elite. And he wears that huge mouse head.
That's genuinely me being...
You're a rock guy, Joe, aren't you? You're not into dance music, really.
I don't know what
to
be
honest.
Right
I've heard of him. I know his stuff. I know a bit about his background and kind of legacy, but I couldn't name a tune. Like,
No, same. I like my more soulful, garagey kind of dance music. Yeah, he's more like the EDM kind of.
You're like a Daniel
festival
Bedingfield
stuff.
kind of guy.
In many ways. But yeah, Dead Mouse, so basically, you've probably seen him on YouTube. He's done lots of huge concerts, always wears a mouse hat. He often does a retro kind of aesthetic in a lot of his shows. For example, I've seen one clip where he turns the entire arena into like a Windows 95 blue screen of death.
I was, blue screen of death. I think that's amazing because Bill Gates used to do that a lot, just naturally.
Yeah, unexpectedly, yeah.
But I was looking into his history a little bit and I was just like, because I thought I needed to research this one because I don't know it that well. And apparently he did stuff with Impulse Tracker, which is like one of the old trackers, and absolutely love that. You know, tracker music is amazing. But also that mouse symbol was a head that he'd rendered on, like, when he was learning 3D modeling on like earlier computer programs. So that's kind of his legacy as built in that tracker kind of demo scene-ish kind of world.
Well, I think even his name as well. I heard that he was building a PC and a mouse crawled into it and died or something.
Oh, he needs to come on the show and tell us these tales, Dead Mouse, Dead Man 5, yeah.
Yeah, as Joe calls him. So the reason we're talking about him, though, is he's going to be doing a game with Atari.
I think this is really cool because this is a collab, you know, with Atari, with the new Atari. They've got their console out. This is a good way of getting a new audience and actually selling, you know, one of these retro titles. But then it becomes a collector's item, doesn't it, as well? They'll want to have that in their collection, but they might go and get the console to run it on and then go, oh, yeah, I remember Atari, and get some other titles that are out there, some of the homebrew stuff that's come in. I think this is really smart, and it's pretty cool as well. It's not like he's doing it with a really uncool artist as well, but I guess the soundtrack's going to be by him, which would be really cool if it's all chiptune-y.
Yeah, I'm not sure how powerful the Atari 7800's audio was. From memory, it was pretty basic, so could be some rendition of his track in there. But this is a game called Meowington's Revenge. Now, all we know so far is this is basically a promotional item that's ahead of his performance he's going to be doing in Denver next month. So apparently there's going to be a pop-up shop. He's playing at the Space Annex there where you can get hold of it. So that's going to be the launch for it. And also apparently you're going to be able to buy it from his website as well from November the 7th. There is a small trailer the Dead Mouse and Atari have posted on Insta, but literally it's just the cartridge kind of flying into a console. So we don't see any of the gameplay. No idea what kind of game it's going to be. But of course, it will work on the Atari 2600 Plus and the 7800 Plus, but also the original console as well, apparently, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely be a collector's item then, won't it? Yeah, for Atari and fans of this guy.
Yeah, we just mentioned that, yeah, obviously the price will probably be an absolute fortune on second-hand sites when the concert's over. That's when you'll get all the scalpers going on eBay.
I'm just
I'm sure.
Really aware of how old and outdated we sound. And I'm like, I never felt so old with this story.
Dance music.
Dance music for the youth.
You know what's quite funny as well? In 2015, a bunch of us went to Leeds Fest, Reading Leeds Festival in the UK, but we went to the Leeds one, and he headlined the second stage, and we all went to watch Limp Bizkit, who was on before him. And after Limp Bizkit had finished, I went back to the tent and left all my mates and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, to watch Dead Mouse. Is it?
Dead Man.
I was just like, it's not for me.
Well, we're never going to get him on the show now, Joe.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm
sorry, fans of Dead Mouse. We're clueless.
So, cool little collaboration, though. And I think, it's obviously just for a bit of promo, isn't it? And making the headlines. But I think, very cool, of him to tap into a bit of Atari nostalgia. So we look forward to the YouTube playthroughs of that coming up soon, hopefully. And, of course, now that we are halfway through October, won't be long, Joe, till the big days here. What's that? Halloween, only a couple of weeks away.
I knew he'd have some sound effects.
He loves it.
We have been ramping up the spooky content over the last few weeks. much to Ravi's dismay. But this is another horror game. This one, a gothic run-and-gun game. A very good-looking one, actually, I've got to say, called NightVein for the Mega Drive.
Yeah, this looks really cool. This is a gothic horror game where you play as, I'm assuming, a vampire hunter, going around with your very, very, very cool axe and flintlock pistol, dashing around, top-down view, classic Mega Drive style, blasting vampires and zombies. Gameplay style, very, very similar to like Zombies, Ate My Neighbors, kind of meets Story of Four, meets Zelda: A Link to the Past, like 16-bit Zelda, but very dark and gothic. A little bit of gore, a little bit of blood. The demo for this has been released by programmer Wesley Marks, who is looking for feedback on the game. You can download the ROM right now, and it does run on, Mega Drive hardware. You've got to, obviously put it on a flash cart and play it on there. The game looks like it runs really, really well, really, really fast paced. Really,
it does look slick. Like I was looking at this and I was thinking, this looks like a AAA studio back in the days. It doesn't like really look like a kind of small little project. And with the music as well, the music sounded absolutely.
Do you want to hear a bit of the music and the sound effects? Because one thing that really leapt out to me when I watched this trailer is just how meaty the axe sound effect is when it's hitting the enemies. Have a listen to this. Got some weight to it, that, hasn't it?
Love that.
It does.
Mega Drive guitar as well. Which is awesome.
It looks awesome. It sounds awesome. Like I say, it is just a demo at the moment. Wesley has said the biggest roadblock so far has been the limitations of the Mega Drive. So far so good from the looks of it. It's just, if he does do this as the Kickstarter or anything like that, if it's going to be a full blown, like 10-level game or something, is he going to have to put some extra chips in there or something? Or is he going to have to do 2 different versions of the game, one for the Mega Drive and then one for, like PC or something? I'll be interested to see. But I hope people go and download it, give some feedback on it, because, just that soundtrack alone, it looks and sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a 3-man team that are working on this. So you've got Wesley, pixel art by Yago, and Diego Silva is behind the music. So yeah, you're right, Ravi. You think looking at that, it does look like commercial quality for Mega Drive back in the day. So the fact that 3 guys can make that,
their studio's called Retro Hammer as well. And Gareth on our Discord mod is called Retro Hammer as well. And I saw it for a sec. I was like, he's released this. And I was like, no.
Our moderator on Discord, Not Gareth, I'm afraid. But yeah, there is a Mega Drive version you can play. There is also a Windows version you can play on your PC as well. That's in widescreen. So you're right, Joe. Maybe they'll do like an enhanced version, for like the PC. But then, stick to its roots on the Mega Drive as well by the looks of it, which I think is very cool. So it's a free demo. If you want to get hold of that, retrohammer.com is a website looking very good. As I said, we love our spooky games around this time of year. So I definitely want to keep an eye on. Something else I think is really awesome for another Sega system. I just kind of feel like the Sega Saturn's getting some serious love in recent months. We're talking last week about Tomb Raider 2 getting a port to the Saturn. And now, one of my favourite games from a bit earlier in the 90s. Recognise that, Ravi?
Yes. What are your favourite games? Quite a tough game, Flashback.
Yes.
It's really good to see a port of this kind of coming out for the Saturn, unofficial port. I was just looking into this. So it uses a thing called the Reminiscence engine, which is a re-implementation of Delphine Software's original engine. So I can imagine with this out, there's going to be a lot more ports for other systems coming out. But it seems that they're taking assets from other versions, higher quality versions, probably of ones that we played, like the Macintosh version, which looks really high quality. Have you played that one, Dan?
No, I mean, I've watched the videos. Yeah, this is a port to the Sega Saturn that is, you can actually try out now. A homebrew port by a French modder called VBT. who've taken the Macintosh CD version of the game as the starting point for this. So I hadn't played that version of it before. From watching the little playthrough of the beta of it, it looks like there are a few more sections of the cutscenes. So I was more familiar with the Amiga version back in the day.
It looks a bit higher res as well.
Yeah, I think the graphics look like they've got more colours. And also the big difference has been a CD-based version of the game. It sounds like the CD audio playing as well.
Yeah, which makes sense for the Saturn. You know, you don't want to use one of the kind of floppy disk versions, even though they were really cool and like groundbreaking, having the animations and the intro scenes and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think this is a really nice idea, and hopefully we'll see more of it as well, because I know there's a huge kind of base of supporters and fans of that title.
Well, it came out on the Atari Jaguar as well in recent years, so it's definitely had some fan love, doing different ports of different systems. There's also that we'll try not to talk about Flashback 2 that came out on modern consoles in the last decade, which I played for about 10 minutes. No, not that one. It's even Joe's forgotten about it. This is one that came out on the Xbox.
I know.
PS4, yeah.
I know. I never played it.
But it's worth forgetting about. Yeah,
it's one of these things where you see like the teaser video and you're like, oh, this could be really cool. And then you play it and you're like, oh, no. We've had quite a few of those.
I give it about 10 minutes and thought, yeah, this is not for me. But Fade to Black, interestingly, that was the sequel that came out on the PlayStation, wasn't it? Which kind of brought Flashback into 3D. It's interesting, because I remember reading about that at the time. It's nothing that I played back in the day, but I had played it in more recent years. And it seems to be one of those games that really divides people. Some people love it, other people can't stand that game.
There was like a Jag version, a 3DO one as well, wasn't there? It came out on a huge amount of systems. The Sega CD, I think. So.
Have you played Fade to Black or Flashback, Joe?
I've played them both. I've played Flashback a little bit. I've played Another World, which is obviously very similar, a lot more than Flashback.
Also from Delphine Software, yeah.
Yeah, but Fade to Black, I actually remember we had the demo disc for it. Me and my brother did, and I remember playing it. Like there was one night where we were playing it, and then dinner was ready, and we were both like talking about, I can't wait to get back upstairs and play this demo. And it wasn't until I was much older that I realised the games were related. You know, it was a sequel to Flashback. But I'm nowhere near as familiar with them as you guys are. Like I say, with Flashback, I've played it on the Super Nintendo and briefly on the Mega Drive. And it's one of those games where I think I was at yours, actually, and we were playing retro games. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to proper sink my teeth into this. And after playing it for like 2 minutes, I was like, switch it off, Dan.
Yeah. It's a bit fiddly. It is. Yeah. I mean, it's a game that me and my brother used to play loads when we were kids.
It's a very solo game, I think.
Yeah.
I guess if you're sitting with your brother and you like playing through, oh, do that bit. No, you made the jump, but yeah, it seems so.
He was only like 6 or 7. He had no say, You just had to sit there and do whatever I said. Yeah. Watch me play.
Made him hold an unplugged controller. There you go.
Yeah. You're controlling the enemies. But yeah, so I mean, the thing about Flashback is, I played Prince of Persia before it. And I love the rotoscope graphics on that, which, is that method of tracing a real life character to get that really fluid animation, which is another something else that they implemented on Flashback as well. So the character Conrad Hart, who is a protagonist in Flashback, beautifully animated game. I love the worlds as well. It's kind of got that kind of dystopian, kind of cyberpunk feel to it as well. And we did actually get quite far in it. I remember, I've got a feeling it might be the final level. Well, no spoilers, but it is a 35-year-old game now, pretty much. But you end up like on Mars or something, like some alien planet, and there are creatures that are like, it's a bit like the Blob, and they kind of come along and morph into like aliens, and we couldn't get past that bit, so I've got a feeling we got really close to finishing the game, but never did. So it's something that, I've got it now on like the Nintendo Switch with all of those nice modern conveniences on there, like Rewind, which really helps with games like Flashback. But yeah, really tough game if you play it in its original form. So I think, you're right, Ravi. It is one of those where it is good if you got a night in on your own, lights dimmed, you can really sink some time into it and get lost in it.
It felt more like a console title to me. I don't know why. More than Another World, because I guess that was a different play method, but it did feel more console-y. and seeing people play it on like, the Mega Drive and stuff like that.
All the versions are quite similar from what I've seen. I mean, I played it on the Mega Drive. It doesn't feel that much different to the Amiga version. Just obviously you haven't got the massive floppy loading sections between levels and cutscenes and everything. But yeah, I think, legendary game, definitely up there in one of my my favourite kind of action adventures of all time. So it is nice to see it get imported to other platforms. So at the moment, you can grab this port. It is a work in progress from the Sega Extreme website. And this is basically a work in progress. He wants people to try it out. He said he's been fine-tuning it based on feedback. And he said if people don't find any game-breaking bugs, then he'll consider this a public release. It kind of feels like, this could be kind of a, kind of a gold master almost, if you like. So I'm going to check it out. The latest beta of a Flashback for the Sega Saturn. It is nice to see the Saturn getting some love. I think we talked about that a couple of years ago, didn't we, Joe? That it just seems like, compared to like other systems, the Saturn didn't get enough respect.
Yeah, I always saw it as like a 2D powerhouse, and it did what you always wanted 16-bit to do. The games that were coming out in the arcade, or on PC, I hate to say it, during the early 90s and the late 80s, the ports of them on 16-bit was always like, But then the Saturn came along, and I felt like the 2D versions of those games, which came out like a lot of the fighting games, and now a lot of these ports like this, looked and ran fantastically. Unfortunately, the world just went to 3D, and the Saturn didn't do it very well. So
in a different world, if the 3D revolution didn't happen, it could have been like a great arcade machine at home. I imagine ports of stuff like the Simpsons arcade on there would have been amazing, and a lot of, obviously the Sega titles as well. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see people tapping into its power, even if it is just kind of Amiga ports. But with some nice enhancements by the looks of it. So that is free. I'm going to download that now and show you Saturn some love. Now we're going to be talking about Amiga. Sorry, Joe. A lot of Amiga chat in the second half of the podcast.
It's an Amiga weekend.
It is. Ravi and I will be drunk by now in Germany. But yeah, so this is Jason Compton, our special guest, coming up in a second. YouTube viewers, you're going to get that interview on Monday in a separate video. Audio listeners, coming up on the podcast in just a minute. I did mention that Jason used to write an Amiga magazine back in the day, so I thought I'd throw in an Amiga story that I thought was pretty cool. Very nerdy, but this is a project called The Old Blue Workbench. Now, this is by Mats Erik Hansen, who has released this, and this is designed for basically your old school Amiga 500. If you want to kind of drag that, I was going to say into the modern world, maybe into the early 90s.
It's really weird. I first saw this and I thought, what is the point in this? And then suddenly, like a wave of nostalgia and another world hit me, which was when I was a kid, I had an Amiga 2000 and it had this setup on. The old Workbench 1.3.
You were a Workbench 1.3 user, were you? Wow.
Yeah, and that blue and orange, I hated it at the time. I thought it looked inferior to Windows 3.1 and stuff like that. But actually, it was quite beautiful. There were not that many quality of life things on it, but I really had nostalgia for that. And stuff like the original SimCity, playing that on the Amiga with this and having the menus in the similar kind of style. It really kind of brought a flashback to me. And I think it's a world that we've forgotten because we've moved on so quickly from OCS to AGA. We've moved on for upgrades and people have turned their workbenches into looking more like Windows and trying to add new icons and make it all like lovely and modern and trying to be in that kind of space race of Amiga technology. But, this old school look is absolutely beautiful and it's good to see some development on it.
Well, let's explain kind of what, for non-Amiga fans, the Amiga operating system when the machine first came out, it was, it was Amiga OS or Workbench as it was called 1.x. So you had, 1.0, 1.1, up to 1.3. But yeah, that was that. You may have seen screenshots of it that by, like you said, Ravi, by today's standards, very rudimentary looking. The operating system was a combination of, a dark blue background, orange and white icons, some black in there as well.
Which was done because they wanted it to show on whatever crappy TV you had it connected to. I've
heard a story that apparently, RJ Michael, he went out to a local electrical retailer and walked in and said to them, "Give me your worst TV you've got," and they're like, "What?" Because I wanted to test it out.
And then they picked the colours, which would look decent on one of the worst TVs. So that's why it's got that colour scheme. But it's quite beautiful. Yeah,
and I mean, to me, I got into the Amiga like late 1991. Mine was an Amiga 500 Plus that came with version 2.0. And after that, they completely changed the look and feel of it. We've heard it was kind of, they tried to copy the next workstation.
Yeah, it went very grey, didn't it?
Yeah, and pseudo 3D icons and all that kind of thing and gadgets. But I even though I didn't own an Amiga in this period, I've got, 1.3 machines now. But whenever I use them, and this is where this comes in quite handy for me, I do feel the limitations of it. For example, when you're using the Amiga operating system, there are icons that you can see, but also a load of hidden files that don't have icons on the disk as well. And the only way to access them in the older versions of the Amiga was to go into the command line.
Yeah, shell. I was just about to say that it was a lot more shell-based. Where, now you just drag and drop things and you can, like, lasso icons, select them all and stuff like that. So seeing those features getting kind of added to this old one's good, but I do have my concerns, which is always legal stuff. There's still Workbench, the name on it. Someone down the line might say, I own a component of this, and you know what the Amiga's like.
Well, this is not a full replacement, so you do need version 1.3 of Workbench anyway installed. So this is more of an add-on pack. So what it does is it basically enhances your Workbench 1.3 setup to bring a lot of the features that were introduced in Workbench 2.0 onwards back to 1.3. So it gives you stuff like the window and icon menus that were in there, like you said, that lassoing multiple icons. It gives you the show all files option that to me is a lifesaver. Say if you're going into the command line, it gives you a dock, which is very handy to launch your programs from. It gives you a little toolbar as well, so you can search for things on there as well. So really, it's a lot of the modern conveniences that we have. So I mean, Amiga Workbench is still developed today, isn't it? Version 1.3.3, I think, came out earlier this year.
I might actually install this on one of my machines, or you could be a complete purist and be like, I'm not using this, it's sacrilege, I'm going back to
I'm sure there will be some. Yeah, but I think, in terms of kind of bringing a lot of those enhancements that were really, introduced in the later versions of the Amiga that, I find it difficult to live without when I go back to these early versions. I think this is a good kind of halfway house.
It is good, but it's also very, very niche, isn't it? It's like
well, I'm going to put this on my CDTV, I think.
Yeah.
So I've got a CDTV with 1.3 that I think I'll be installing this on. So very cool to see 1.3 getting some love. Interesting, I was reading an old copy of Amiga Format magazine just randomly over the weekend. And in the letters section, they used to have like points of view sections in there. I think it was a guy called
Tales
Jeff Walker.
from the Crypt, was it, or something at the back?
There's a guy called Jeff Walker, I think, and he's basically whinging about Workbench 1.3 users, saying, they're holding the Amiga back. And this was in 1994. So basically, they're telling everyone to move on even then. So if there are people still hanging on to it in 2025, I think, they deserve a bit of love for being so loyal. So that's available to download now for free at Old Blue Workbench. I'll link that, and of course, all the rest of the stories in this week's show notes. Now, patrons, hold tight. A few extra news stories on the way for you in just a minute. We do that every week on the podcast. Patrons get an extra 10, 15 minutes because we chop the ads out. And that's not all we do for our patrons. We give a lot back, don't we, Joe? We're very nice guys to our patrons.
Yeah. We have done, if you sign up to our second tier, we have done, we always get it wrong. It's either 49 episodes or 50 episodes.
I think we're doing 50 this month.
We're doing 50 this month. Our second podcast, which is the Retro Hour, the After Hours, which some of them are like 2 hours long, but basically we don't have a guest in that. There's no news section or guest. We always pick a topic and talk about it. So that can be a particular year in gaming or particular gaming franchise, or even just our favorites of a particular series or favorites of a particular genre of game or console. We recently did cheat codes as our last episode, which was really fun. So our favorite cheat codes, and we talk about our memories. So if you want to know a little bit more about like our kind of opinions on those kind of subjects, you get the After Hours, which I always love doing. We're probably due to do one in the next week or two. We even cover some films and stuff like that in the After Hours. Awful games and underrated games. We did a piracy special once.
Retro Tech as well.
Retro Tech, Light Gun Games. We even interviewed each other in the first 3 episodes.
The one I hated the most is when we force each other to play some of the worst games of all time.
We have done that, and we've also forced each other to play games that the other just doesn't, like a genre of game we're not into or we're just not like familiar with. Ravi got me to play some very awesome games that I found incredibly frustrating. Which
strategy games.
Strategy games. But yeah, so we do the after hours. We also do the patron hangout, which is usually on the last Sunday of every month, which kind of started as a COVID thing. It was kind of like a Google Hangout. It started the first time we were like, oh, is anybody going to join it? And, it was about 10 people there. Still some of the same 10 people, I think, if not all of the same 10 people, still with us five years later. Obviously, the last one we did was for episode 500. And there was about 50 people there or something like that, 40 people. It felt crazy. But that is just like a round table. We all get together. People from all over the world come onto that one sometimes, which is great. But we just get together and we just talk about what we've all been up to, and we just hang out. So people talk about, their game pickups and retro tech pickups, or even new tech. Sometimes we end up talking about new stuff as well on that. So we do try to give back for when you support us, because obviously, as Dan always says, it keeps the lights on, keeps it going, and keeps it going remotely as well, which we've been doing for 5 years, and here we are now doing it on video, all thanks to Patreon, really.
Yeah, really, the lifeblood of this podcast, we always say that, don't we? So if you'd like to join our wonderful community, we have a Discord channel as well. We're in there chatting all week too. All the details to sign up are at theretrohour.com. I'm recording this in a different room than I normally do, so I haven't got Ravi's legendary Hall of Fame jingle on my soundboard. I forgot to bring it. Maybe Ravi can treat us to a live rendition.
A live rendition? I don't know.
Because we have some new patrons we need to
Hall of Fame. There you go.
That'll do. So thank you so much to the latest people who joined our wonderful patrons community. Let's give them a shout out. A big thank you to Toby King,
Annabelle Williams,
and Destroyed 007.
Who all joined our wonderful patrons community over the last couple of weeks. Thank you so much for your support. And I know Destroyed 007 renewed. He's been a patron for a long time, so we hugely appreciate that as well. If you'd like to join the community, theretrohour.com, all the details are there. Couple of extra stories on the way just for our patrons in just a second. First, though, let's give a massive thank you to another big supporter of the Retro Hour podcast, and that is our mates with the sound. The sound of making money. Our sponsor this week, it is our mates at Shopify. Now, this time of year, obviously Christmas markets are coming up. A lot of retro gaming events. We had Play Expo on last weekend too. The one thing you find when you go to any event like that is the fact that nobody carries money anymore. It's all, people wanting to make card payments. My missus actually did a craft fair at the weekend as well. Actually had my little Shopify reader that she used there as well, because Shopify is the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Now, not only is it used by some of the biggest household names in the world, including Mattel and Gymshark, I made some Bitmap books. They use Shopify as well for their delivery, for their store. But also it's people just starting up as well. And you'll know if you started anything at all, what a headache it can be. Just, starting your business, learning all the things, your daily to-do list, it seems to grow every day. That quickly can overrun your life if you're not on top of it. So finding the right tool that helps you out can be an absolute game changer. And for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Now, you can build a beautiful online store in minutes. This is something, and by minutes, I literally do mean that. It is possible to make a beautiful Shopify store on your lunch break in a coffee shop, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's one thing that I haven't actually talked about, which is the App Store that they have in Shopify. So you can have external apps, which also mean you can do extra things. So you can have MailChimp integrated. Alibaba and AliExpress drop shipping. So you can get loads of different options in the store. One thing that we do is digital delivery, which is just fantastic. Once you've got that all set up, it instantly gets delivered to your customers. And, it's really safe and secure as well. Just great and really trustworthy Shopify.
Yeah, and it's all drag and drop as well when you're building your shop on there. So you get a design studio, hundreds of templates are all ready to use, and you can customize them with your colors and your brand fonts and stuff on there as well. So it can give you, in minutes, a beautiful online store to match your brand style. And you also get those little point of sale readers that you can get as well if you want to sell in person. One great thing about that is it matches your inventory online and in person as well, so it keeps it all together, which is great. It's got AI tools in there as well. Like everything's got AI now. The ones in Shopify are actually really helpful though. They'll help you with your product descriptions, your page headlines, even enhance your product photography as well. And as Ravi mentioned, help you with stuff like your email campaign, social media. So wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, Shopify will be there to help you every step of the way. So if you sell anything at all, you're ready for Shopify. So you can turn your big business idea into serious, thanks to our friends at Shopify by your side. Now you can try this out for the bargain price of £1 a month. A no-brainer. Give this a try. Helps out the podcast as well to know that we sent you by using our link, shopify.co.uk/retro-hour. That is shopify.co.uk/retro-hour. I'll put that in the show notes. Try it out for just £1 a month and get ready to hear a lot more of this. All right, well, thank you for checking out the news this week. We'll have more for you, of course, next Friday. Don't forget, if you're a YouTube viewer, make sure you're joining us Monday for our interview with Jason Compton. For audio listeners, he's on the way next on the Retro Hour podcast.